What if emotional burnout isn't a sign that you're broken, but proof that you've been strong for too long? Most people don't crash dramatically, they fade quietly, losing joy, motivation, and their inner spark. They assume rest will fix it, yet something still feels missing. That's because burnout isn't just exhaustion, it's emotional disconnection. In this video, you'll understand why pushing through never works for emotional burnout. You'll see how survival mode slowly drains vitality, how ignoring your feelings taxes the nervous system, and why your spark hasn't disappeared. It's been overdrawn. This isn't about forcing positivity or finding motivation again. It's about learning how energy actually returns. Stay with me until the end because I'll share the one subtle shift most people miss. It's not dramatic and it's not effort-based, but it's the moment emotional aliveness quietly comes back online. And once you feel it, burnout stops defining your life. Emotional burnout doesn't look like collapse. It looks like losing your spark. Have you ever gone through your day and felt like a ghost version of yourself? Not dramatic, not shaking, just numb, detached, and going through the motions, like the joy and motivation you used to have quietly faded away. That creeping disconnection isn't laziness. It's emotional burnout, and it often masquerades as normal life. Even people the world sees as high achievers aren't immune. Miranda Lambert, the Grammy-winning country star, recently said she realized she'd hit a pretty high level of burnout while touring relentlessly, and it dimmed her creativity and joy until she learned to slow down, rest, and reconnect with what mattered. Research defines emotional burnout as prolonged emotional exhaustion, not just tiredness, but deep depletion that robs life of its color. Psychologist Christina Maslach, pioneer of the Maslach Burnout Inventory, explains that burnout involves emotional exhaustion, reduced personal accomplishment, and detachment, not dramatic breakdowns. A simple early step is noticing when your inner spark fades, not blaming yourself, but observing, where did my joy go? Try pausing today and naming one thing that used to excite you but no longer does. That question may feel uncomfortable, yet it reveals the deeper signal your nervous system has been trying to send, and it leads naturally into why rest alone won't restore your energy. Why rest alone doesn't bring your energy back. Have you ever taken time off, slept more, slowed your schedule, and still felt empty inside? Your body may feel less tired, yet your motivation, joy, and emotional clarity don't return. That's because emotional burnout isn't just physical fatigue, it's disconnection. This is something Ariana Grande spoke about after finishing intense tours and public projects. She shared that rest helped her body, but her emotional exhaustion only eased when she began therapy and reconnected with herself beyond performance and pressure. Her experience highlights a hard truth. Burnout doesn't heal in isolation from your inner world. Long-term observation suggests rest restores energy, but reconnection restores aliveness. Psychiatrist Judith Herman, in Trauma and Recovery, explains that when stress becomes chronic, the nervous system shifts into survival mode, and recovery requires restoring emotional connection and meaning, not just stopping activity. Without that reconnection, rest becomes pause without renewal. A gentle shift begins by pairing rest with presence. Instead of asking, how can I recover faster? Try asking, what part of me has been ignored? Even 5 minutes of honest, emotional check-in, journaling, mindful breathing, or naming one feeling begins restoring the energy rest alone can't reach, setting up the cost of ignoring those signals for too long. The cost of ignoring your emotional signals for too long. Have you ever noticed how burnout doesn't arrive suddenly but creeps in quietly over time? You push through discomfort, override your needs, and tell yourself it's temporary, until one day your body and emotions stop cooperating. This pattern became clear for Prince Harry, who has spoken openly about suppressing grief and emotional pain for years while continuing to function publicly. He later shared that ignoring those internal signals led to anxiety, panic, and emotional collapse. His experience shows how survival can look like strength until it doesn't. Research shows emotional suppression has a cumulative cost. Psychologist Susan David, author of Emotional Agility, explains that ignoring emotions doesn't eliminate them. It amplifies stress responses and drains psychological energy over time. Long-term avoidance keeps the nervous system locked in tension. A small but powerful shift begins with permission to listen. When irritation, numbness, or heaviness appears, pause and ask, what is this feeling asking for? That moment of listening interrupts the burnout loop and prepares you to see how survival mode quietly steals joy next. How living in survival mode dims joy without you noticing. Have you ever realized you're functioning just fine, yet nothing actually feels good anymore? You get through the day, check the boxes, handle responsibilities, but curiosity, pleasure, and excitement feel strangely distant. This happens even to people who look successful on the outside. Lady Gaga has spoken about long periods where she operated on autopilot, disconnected from joy while managing pain and pressure behind the scenes. She later described how survival mode muted her emotional range long before she noticed something was wrong. Neuroscience explains why this happens. Psychiatrist Bessel van der Kolk in The Body Keeps the Score explains that when the nervous system stays in threat mode, it shuts down systems related to play, creativity, and pleasure. Survival prioritizes safety over aliveness. The way back isn't forcing positivity or excitement. Start by introducing moments of low-stakes presence, noticing warmth in your body, music that moves you, or one activity done slowly on purpose. Those tiny signals of safety are how joy quietly finds its way back, and they set the stage for reclaiming your spark next. Reclaiming your spark starts with permission, not motivation. Have you noticed how exhausted you feel when you're always trying to push through? Burnout deepens when energy is forced instead of allowed. Your spark doesn't disappear. It goes into hiding under pressure. This pattern shows up even in admired lives. Keanu Reeves has spoken about stepping back from projects and expectations after personal losses, allowing space instead of forcing momentum. That permission wasn't quitting, it was how he stayed grounded and human. Psychology supports this shift. Psychiatrist Gabor Mate explains that motivation collapses when the nervous system feels unsafe, not when people lack discipline. In When the Body Says No, he shows that permission to rest and feel is what restores genuine vitality. So the practice isn't trying harder. Begin by giving yourself permission to stop performing strength for one small moment each day. That allowance creates safety, and safety is what quietly invites your spark to return, leading us to the final shift ahead. The small shift that reignites emotional aliveness. What if your spark hasn't vanished? It's just been waiting for safety. Burnout often lingers because the body still feels braced. Without safety, aliveness can't come back online. This realization has surfaced publicly too. Lady Gaga has shared that emotional numbness lifted only when she stopped pushing and focused on nervous system safety after trauma. Presence, not pressure, is what slowly brought her vitality back. Neuroscience explains why this works. Psychiatrist Stephen Porges, creator of polyvagal theory, shows that aliveness returns when the nervous system shifts from defense to safety. According to his research, regulation precedes joy, creativity, and connection. So the shift is surprisingly small. Instead of asking, how do I get my energy back? Ask, what helps my body feel safe right now? That question restores self-trust. And once trust returns, emotional aliveness follows naturally. What you've seen here isn't a strategy to push harder or become stronger. It's a recognition of what your nervous system has been trying to say for a long time. Burnout didn't happen because you failed. It happened because you kept going without listening. When you stop treating numbness as weakness, something shifts. Compassion replaces pressure, and presence slowly replaces survival. Your spark was never gone. It was protected beneath exhaustion. If this resonated, I strongly recommend watching the previous video. Before you give up, remember this, because burnout and despair often come from the same place, carrying too much alone for too long. That video deepens what happens when the system finally says enough. So ask yourself gently, what would change if recovery didn't require fixing yourself? What if listening was the real strength you've been missing? If this work speaks to you, subscribe to Heart Detox TV and stay with us. This is where we learn to heal without abandoning ourselves again.